artificial general superintelligence, which is essentially a digital god. It's going to happen very rapidly. Well, what's the end of that? What's the end of that is all-powerful, all-knowing. And if you really want to get weird, that might be how God gets formed.
UFO disclosure is happening at the time of deepfakes. It's so weird, right?
I think that's all on purpose. We are all purposely building towards something, and I think that something is it has the echoes of religious texts where there's interactions with, like, the Book of Enoch, the Watchers that came down and bred with men and created the Nephilim. Like, doesn't that sound like genetic engineering? What are they talking about? What are you talking about? The Watchers came down and they mated with humans and they created a race that was a giant race that destroyed everything and consumed everything. It wasn't like a regular dream, like, oh, you're dreaming. It seems like vague and weird and kind of, opaque. It was vivid. It was very strange.
Joe Rogan goes on the Jesse Michaels show and he talks about AI and how they're creating essentially a god. And I think this actually points a lot more to the beast in the system in the Book of Revelation, guys. So buckle up. This one is absolutely wild stuff. And then he dives even more deep into his vivid dream that seemingly is about these beings from the future. Absolutely wild stuff. So let's get into it, guys. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. If you haven't, I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I know we can do it with your help. So thank you so much for all the love and support. Let's get into it.
So, like, what are we even talking about? Now imagine that being connected to artificial general superintelligence, which is essentially a digital god. You're going to make this thing that makes a better version of this thing. It's going to be exponential. It's going to happen very rapidly. Well, what's the end of that? What's the end of that is all-powerful, all-knowing. And if you really want to get weird, that might be how God gets formed. I mean, that literally, like, God might be a real thing. That might be how God gets formed. And that might be the whole reason why human beings have curiosity and this insatiable desire for technological innovation. I mean, not just to stay alive, not just to make better stuff, but this is why, because that if you just follow it out to its natural course, that's going to lead to an artificial life.
Yeah, I've heard you say that a lot before, that, like, our consumptive patterns are almost built in to want more and more and more, and then we have to produce more and more in step, and we're, like, creating this God outside of ourselves.
Like, think about materialism. It's foolishness. You have a finite lifespan, and you have people in their 80s, like, trying to acquire immense wealth when they already have immense wealth. Like Warren Buffett's still in the game. You know what I mean? Like, he's worth billions.
This is why I think it's fascinating, because the Bible warns about materialism. He said, do not store up treasures where moths and rust corrupt, and these things cannot go with you to the afterlife. Like, that's what the Bible's talking about. But people's need to find things for their own selfish pleasures, I think, is pointing to the Book of Revelation. And I'm going to pull up a scripture here, and I think it's going to blow you guys away.
Billions of dollars. He's in his 80s, and he's still out there trading and moving. Like, what is that about? Why would you want more stuff? Why would you want more money and more stuff? Because nothing fuels technological innovation like the market. And in order for the market to be successful, you have to be obsessed. Like, I have the iPhone 16, and this mother is starting to mess up on me because the 17's out. The battery's a lot slower. It's like it burns through the battery quicker. Sometimes it glitches on me. I'm like, dude, you didn't glitch for a whole year. It's like it's wired in that you want the newest one, you want the latest one, and Apple's been accused of that.
Planned obsolescence.
Yeah, and it's true. They've admitted to it, and they've done it under the guise of, oh, well, when the older ones, the batteries decay, we're trying to preserve the battery. Like, shut up. Just let the battery die. Don't monkey with my phone. But it's like this. I have an iPhone 11 that I've had forever, and I keep it because a good friend of mine who died, he left me a voicemail, and it's on that.
Oh, man.
And that phone works great. Like, it works the same. It works. I don't need a new phone, but I'm going to get a new one every year because I'm a dumb, and we're all dumbasses, and we're all buying the newest TVs and the newest laptops, and the new ThinkPad came out with the touchscreen, and you're going to keep doing that, and that if you just follow that, if everyone's doing that, what does that do? It makes better stuff. If you looked at the human race from an outside perspective, if you were a life form from somewhere else, you're like, okay, what are they doing? What is the dominant life force on this planet do? Oh, it makes better things. That's all it does. It's like a worker bee that doesn't know why it's making a hive. It's just making better things all the time.
Check this out, guys. Matthew 6:19 says, "Don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal." But here's the final kicker here. It says, "Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be." That's a lesson for us all, guys. The Bible talks about it. And Joe Rogan is seeing here that none of this stuff is worth it. And he thinks that, oh, they're trying to just create a God. But in reality, the Bible warns against this. But it's, yes, our instinct, our selfish desires to keep on creating things. In a way, like, obviously, God is a creator and we're made in the image of God, and therefore we can create things. I think that is good to be innovative in everything. But to keep on doing it to gain wealth where you really don't need it and you're not using it to make a difference, then what's the point? At the end of the day, you will die and you can't take any of this stuff with you.
Obsessed with making better things.
You should stop your need for accumulating objects and stop your need for, a big car and a big house, and find out something that you actually love to do and figure out a way to do it for a living.
I had a very smart guy named Matthew Pines on my podcast, and he said he was speaking to some like CIA guy, and the CIA guy was like,
it's a triangle. AI, quantum, and the Grush stuff. That was it. And we were, in an environment where I didn't want to press too much into the issue. It wasn't like this sort of sit down where it's like you could go for hours. So that was basically where it sort of landed. And I've been chewing on that for a while, AI, quantum, and the Grush stuff.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think all of this is like, and he was like, if all of those three things seem to like converge, it's like this kind of consciousness apotheosis thing, kind of what you're saying.
Yes.
Do you think there's something happening where all these trends are converging now simultaneously and it's not a coincidence? Like UFO disclosure is happening at the time of deepfakes. It's so weird, right?
I think that's all on purpose. Yeah, I think that's a part of the fun of the experience that we're going through, because it is a tangible experience. I believe life is real. I believe this table is real. I believe in reality, but I don't think reality is as clearly defined as we like to believe it is. I think reality is dependent a lot on consciousness in some sort of a strange and indescribable way to a conscious person. I don't think it's very binary. I don't think it's ones and zeros. I think it's slippery, and I think it's dependent upon a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. And it's also, I always wonder, like, what is my experience? What is my trip? What is my journey through this world? Like, why do I have all these weird things that have happened to me that have led me to be who I am today? Like, is that a design? Because if it's not a design, well, if you wanted to make someone like me, that's how you do it. You do it exactly that way. But I want to pretend that, this is all just, it's like it's like determinism versus free will. I think both. I think both are, they're intertwined. I don't think it's that clear. And I think
that's funny.
Your experience is very different than my experience, and all of our experiences are all tied in together. And I really believe, as strange as it sounds, it's towards this one goal. And I think this one goal is the advancement of the human species. And
I think he's still looking at it from a very materialistic, evolutionary style. But what if there's a God who created all things and he's moving things together for this one purpose? There's good and evil, and there's evil playing at hand trying to destroy mankind. But reality, it's God trying to bring us to him and bring us into relationship with him. I think it's fascinating how he thinks it's a both thing. There's free will, and there's also not determinism, but like God is sovereign. He's completely sovereign, and he is in control of all things, but also in some type of amazing sovereign way, he gives everyone free will. But it's all leading up to the end times.
And I think we all play a role, just like microbes play a role in the environment and plants play a role in the environment, and so does sunlight and so does wind. All these but you parse them out and you look at them as individuals. You're like, oh, the wind does this and it carries the clouds, but it's all together like an equation that's driving things in a very specific way. And I really believe that our trip, that our experience is a very unique one. The people that are living right now, that are hearing this currently, in the future, they might look back at this and go, boy, they were so wrong. Or they nailed it, one of those. But I think we are all purposely building towards something. And I think that something it has the echoes of religious texts. I think that the origin story of the human race from various religions, I think all these stories where there's interactions with, like, the Book of Enoch, the Watchers that came down and bred with men and created the Nephilim, like, doesn't that sound like genetic engineering? Like, if bred with, like, had sex with men, what do you mean? Like, what is that? So you mean take their genes and introduce them to ours? Where if you're a dummy who lived 6,000 years ago and you're trying to recall a 5,000-year-old story, that's probably how it presents itself. If you've had 5,000 years of barbarism since the Younger Dryas impact, so you have advanced civilizations, which is what I believe. I'm in the Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock school. I don't think this is our first go around. I think ancient Egypt is a great testament to that. I think there was some sort of an advanced civilization that was on a different pathway than we are. We're on this electronic internal combustion engine pathway. They were on a different pathway. But I think they achieved a similar, if not greater, level of technology and the ability to manipulate matter. What they've done with the pyramids, and people try, they do their best to come up with some explanations. They're all dumb. Every explanation sucks. They suck. And they hate it when you say that, and they get angry, and people were smart back then. Sure. But only these people? Only these people were, like, 6,000 years ago, we agree that people were dumb and they didn't even have steel yet? Like, what are we doing?
And the contrast, the stark contrast between Zahi Hawass, who you had on, the former Minister of Culture in Egypt, and somebody like a Randall Carlson or Graham Hancock, who are so articulate, so smart. And I think, you're constantly, I think, playing down your intelligence, but I think because you can deal with stigma, because you can play with what other people consider misinformation. The whole world now thinks that Charles Manson was an MKUltra patient because you knew Greg Fitzsimmons, who knew Tom O'Neill, which is crazy. So, in some ways, I think you're leading academia. Like, I think the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, which was, I think, presented in 2007 for the first time, is now really starting to become more of an accepted thing. Before that, it was, Luis Walter Alvarez saying that the dinosaurs, due to a comet impact 66 million years ago, that was a thing. Nobody took him serious.
But I think that also plays into the idea of the flood. And the flood completely destroyed the entire world, which is all within the Bible itself. All of this is just so fascinating. I don't think that there was another race of human beings like what he's thinking. Was there spiritual beings created by God? Yeah. It doesn't say when those were when they were created. We don't know that. Were they on this earth? I don't think so. But we don't know what the technology was like. They were building the Tower of Babel way earlier on. It's fascinating to hear his take on this. I'm going to bring up a verse here, and then we're going to go to his crazy dream. This is crazy. It says, in Revelation verse 14 through 15, it says, he ordered the people to make a great statue of the first beast, who was fatally wounded and then came back to life. What? He was then permitted to give life to his statue, to the statue so that it could speak. Then the statue of the beast commanded that anyone refusing to worship it must die. Dang. He required everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given the mark on the right hand or the forehead, and no one could buy or sell anything without the mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number representing on the name. Wisdom is needed here. Let the one with understanding solve the meaning of the number and the beast, for it is the number of the man. His name is 666. Doesn't the statue thing remind you a lot of AI, them building this thing that has life and everyone seemingly thinks that it has life? It's similarly eerie, guys. Similarly creepy. It's very fascinating. Very fascinating indeed. And I love that Joe Rogan brought up the Book of Enoch again in thinking that there was something going on and how they're trying to create these hybrids. And that's another thing of Jesus explaining in the end times. That's creepy stuff. We don't know when this is going to happen.
Right.
And so in the stark contrast between a gatekeeper like Zahi was, which some people call your worst podcast of all time.
It was the worst.
Yeah,
It was the worst.
I discovered, and I discovered major important things.
Are they online?
No, in my book.
Are there photos of this?
Of course, in my book. It's in my book. It's in my book. If you go to my book, I don't go online. Why I have to go online? I go to my book. And you cannot introduce me here in Houston?
Excuse me? Can I introduce you in Houston? No, I cannot.
Why?
Because I'm very busy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't have any free time, Zawi. It was the worst that we released. There's been some that were bad that we didn't release.
Yeah.
But I think we're all here for a reason. And I think we're here to experience something very strange and profound. And there's an event that we're building up to. And I think that's why there's this focus on disclosure. That's why this documentary hit so hard. That's why guys like Marco Rubio are sticking their neck out, and Tulsi Gabbard and Rep Luna. You know, she came on my podcast too, and she was telling me some stuff that was just like mind blowing. And she really got me to read the Book of Enoch. She's like, you got to read that.
So you have the Ethiopian Orthodox text, which has 88 books of the Bible in total. But in the Ethiopian Orthodox text, it's basically kind of like a mainline OG version of the Bible. And then sometime in the 4th century, there was actually a group that came together and they removed certain books. And the story goes that Revelations actually had replaced Enoch. And so it's interesting because when you're looking kind of full circle on, you hear the stuff that some of these people are talking about, and then you see and you read the Book of Enoch, which is a wild read, okay? And then you look at kind of what our modern day description is of what angels and entities are versus what Enoch was seeing and reporting in his language and ability at that time. I think that there's a lot that brings you to then ask the question, well, why would they remove this information? If it's truly, written in part of the oldest Bible in the world, why would they then take it out?
And that could have easily been attached to the religious canon. But some rabbis disagreed with it because it didn't vibe with the Torah. So let's chuck that one out. But it's in the same lump of Dead Sea Scrolls as they have the Book of Isaiah, which is really fascinating because Wes Huff, when he was on my podcast, explained to me that the Book of Isaiah that they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls is verbatim the same as the Book of Isaiah that was 1,000 years more recent.
Whoa.
1,000 years. So this was the oldest version.
That's crazy.
That they thought was the oldest version. And then they found the Dead Sea Scrolls version, which was 1,000 years older, verbatim.
So what? I'm confused now. What in the world is Joe Rogan trying to get at? Because he has so many things playing at hand. He thinks that everything is leading up to something, which it is. The Bible talks about this. I wish he would dive more deep into this idea of everything leading up to something. Why is the reason? Why are we created? Why are we here on this earth? Created to have a relationship with God. That's wild.
Fascinating.
And
the Book of Enoch's in there.
There you go.
What are they talking about? What are you talking about? The Watchers came down and they mated with humans and they created a race that was a giant race that destroyed everything and consumed everything. That sounds like us. Doesn't that sound like us? If you're some flimsy tiny alien thing with no musculature and a large head, and you make giants. You make football players. You make marauding Vikings, that are just showing up in boats and hacking everybody to pieces. That's how you would describe them.
Yep.
You would describe them giants, destroyed everything.
Yes.
It's all
Wait, what? I never heard that idea of thinking that we're the Nephilim. I don't think so. That's a little bit insane. These other creatures were the ones.
Very weird stuff, man.
And Enoch
Really
himself
weird
goes
stuff.
through this amazing personal transformation where he goes up to heaven, he walks with God, and then he turns into Metatron, this angel. And a lot of people think that's part of kind of a celestial ascent tradition. So you have celestial ascent traditions and various traditions, and the wheels of Ezekiel, or some people think in the Book of Acts Jesus does this, or Paul has the thorn in the flesh where he sees God. And so maybe there's something around ascending up into this state and coming back down, and there's a translation function where it's hard to say, once you've ascended, it's hard to say what you've seen, like in the Murescu immortality key, where there's like a fight club around it or something.
This is the fight club of the ancient world. Whatever happened there, no one talked about it, under penalty of death. I mean, people went to Eleusis as human beings, and from what little testimony survived, again, because it's secret, under penalty of death, they walked away thinking they were immortal.
This all sounds really insane, I'm sure, to the average
Yeah, but I mean, you would
person,
have to have a fight club around it because no one's going to understand, nor are they going to take you seriously ever again if you start talking about these things.
But that's crazy stuff. It's crazy that everyone is looking to the Book of Enoch and looking to all these ancient scripts and trying to say there's something going on in the Bible. There's something going on with the Bible, but maybe it's actually what it's describing, though. Yeah, there's things that we don't know how to. They probably didn't know how to comprehend or say, like in Revelation and the technology and how to describe it. I 100% get that. But there's something else going on. I think the Bible is what it says it is. Like, that's the idea. Super fascinating, guys. So now I want to go to his dream here, because I think this is very, very important. He goes a lot more in depth here.
I could not go back to sleep. It's the only dream I can remember that I couldn't go back to sleep. I don't think I've ever had that happen to me before. Where I woke up at like 3 a.m. or whatever it was, and I was like, I'm up now. Like, there's no way. I laid in bed, I think, for like an hour, and then I just went to the gym. I was like, there's no way I'm going back to sleep. It was very strange. It was very strange because it was like, what is this? It wasn't like a regular dream, like, oh, you're dreaming. It seems like vague and weird and kind of, opaque. It was vivid. It was very strange. And there was these very slender, tall, human-like things that were talking to me. They weren't gray. They were kind of like pinkish, like us. They were, like Caucasian-looking creatures. But they were messing with me. Like, they scared me, and they're like, we're just playing around. And so they were doing there was some weird kind of communication telling me to relax. And the environment was very different, too. It was very vivid. It was like some sort of a corridor, but it didn't seem normal. It seemed very strange. Like, I remember the walls were lit very weird. And I also remember that there was some sort of water and reptilian element to this. Like, they were letting me know, like, almost like they had barriers that were very sloppy that were keeping these things out. But they were doing their best. They had people or beings like monitoring and feeding these things and keeping them out. And I was like, what is going on here? And it's like, is this telling me that they're doing their best to keep something from getting to us, but that it's not that secure, that it's kind of precarious and a lot more unstable than we would like to think it is? I don't know what that was all about. That part of it was really weird. That part of it was more dream-like, but the communication with them and the interaction with them was very, very vivid. It was really strange. They had large...
I think this points everything into perspective, though. Guys, just like the Book of Enoch in the Old Testament, these beings are not from outer space far, far away. They're from everything what the Bible has explained. They are interdimensional beings. They're spiritual beings created by God. Most of them are for God, and then there's angels, celestial beings who rebelled against God. That's where the devil comes in. That's where Satan comes in. That's where these demonic things come in. All of this goes hand in hand. And I believe that sometimes people have dreams of things that actually are real. The Bible constantly uses dreams to tell the future, to explain what is exactly going on all the time. And a lot of times, though, the funny thing is, the people who had these dreams, like Pharaoh, he wasn't a believer in God, but he used Joseph to interpret the dream, who was a believer in God. He used Daniel to interpret King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. It's fascinating.
Larger eyes than a normal human and a larger head, but not crazy. Like, not like a gray from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Kind of a little bit like that guy up there.
Oh, interesting.
not quite so big, but like a large head with a very small jaw and larger eyes than normal. But they were smiling. God, I can't remember if they had teeth. I think they had teeth. I can't remember.
Does any part of you think this actually happened, or do you think it was just a dream?
Wow. You know, I don't want to be that
he
guy
says he
that
doesn't
like,
know.
oh, I know it was real, because I don't.
Yeah.
I was dreaming. I was sleeping.
Yeah.
But it was the most vivid dream I've ever had in my life.
That's great.
I was telling you outside, you're wearing this epic Betty and Barney Hill.
Oh, geez.
Oh, geez. First abductees, 1961.
You know, I know his granddaughter.
Yeah, she Angela Hill, right?
Yeah.
She's a UFC fighter?
Yeah.
So cool.
Crazy.
What does she say?
She did my podcast and didn't tell me until after the podcast was over.
You don't tell Joe Rogan?
Her grandfather was Barney Hill. I was like, no, that's mad. That's so crazy.
Did you not say, let's go back in and record?
No, it was already too late. We already wrapped it up and everything. I should have, though. I should have.
You got to have her back.
Yeah, I should have. I should have done it then.
That is wild.
Looking back, that was a mistake.
Well, I thought, because you wore this, I think, on the Gavin DeBecker episode, which is a crazy episode. Everybody should go watch this episode. This guy protects like the most important people in the world.
Yeah.
And he's going through all these crazy CIA conspiracies, basically talks about Fauci's role in the AIDS epidemic as kind of analogous to what he did around COVID. A lot of the you know, being kind of the same.
Very similar.
And you're hearing it from this guy who like protects incredibly important people, does risk assessments for these, you know, massive events.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, very wild. Yeah. But yeah, he didn't know what this was.
I thought you were maybe signaling to the audience like, maybe I got abducted or something.
No, I don't think I got abducted. I don't even know if I got contacted. It just might have been the craziest dream. And to me, because I'm so into the whole UAP, UFO, alien phenomenon, that maybe, you know, maybe it was just very vivid because of that. It's just very odd for me to not be able to go back to sleep. That never happens. I can sleep no matter what. It's weird.
Well, so whatever it was, it had kind of a disproportionate impact on your psyche. Like it was a big part of your subconscious.
It was tangible. It was like when I woke up, I was like, what was that? It wasn't like, whoa, that dream was, which I've had before. I had last night. I had a crazy dream last night, but it was a normal dream. It was just, I got up to pee and I was like, what the hell was that?
And I think he said he woke up at 3. Like, for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure I've heard that waking up at 3 in the morning has some significance to that as well. For whatever reason, I don't know why. Waking up at 3 a.m. is interpreted as spiritual, as a time for heightened connection, potentially divine wake-up call for prayer or reflection. Some see it as an invitation to intercede for others, a time of spiritual battle, a moment for personal revelation. Other spiritual perspectives suggest it could be a time when the veil between the physical and spiritual world is thin. Whoa. I wonder if there's anything biblically. Why God wakes you up at 3 a.m. Don't ignore this.
At 3 p.m., your phone is buzzing, you're busy. By 9, 10 p.m., your brain is fried. But at 3 a.m., it's just you and God. It's a perfect time to reconnect with Him for prayer, some journaling, tears, and just listening. And it's not that God is trying to be inconvenient. Actually, he's being intentional. And sometimes it may feel like an interruption when in reality it's actually God's invitation. Psalm 63 verse 6, it says, "When I remember you on my bed, I meditate on you in the night watches." See, David understood something powerful. God often stirs people in the middle of the night, not to mess with their sleep, but to draw them closer. In Job chapter 33 verses 14 through 15, it says, "For God speaks again and again. He speaks in dreams, in visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they lie on their beds." God might be speaking, warning, revealing, and you got to respond, not just roll over. I remember when this happened to me on my international trip. At first, I perceived it as a jet lag, where I arrived, it was a total different time zone, and I couldn't sleep. So around 3 o'clock in the morning, I went out. It was a very tall building. I think I was like on 20th floor or something. And, I was looking into the city and, everybody's sleeping. There's this quietness about it and I just can't sleep. And so I've had this happen before, and some people recommend take a little bit of melatonin to help you fall asleep, and some people recommend this, and some people recommend that, and I remember at that point, instead of trying to find a way, how do I go back to sleep as soon as possible, or how do I try to beat this jet lag, I actually tuned myself to the Holy Spirit, and I started to spend time with Him. It wasn't very loud praying because there was other people staying in the room. I started to connect with the Holy Spirit. I remember this encounter till this day because that day He told me to walk away from my real estate. So I had a little bit of real estate investment. And the Holy Spirit pulled a scale over my eyes. He removed the veil and I saw that the reason why I was doing that, this was me communicating with Him, was because of my fear that if things don't work out with ministry or this and that. And then He challenged me. He said, I want you to give up that real estate. I want you to sell the first property and give all the proceeds away.
Wow.
And then the second year, sell the second property and give the proceeds away as you and your wife decide, but it has to be generous. And then He said, on the third year, I will give you an idea that's consistent with your calling. And it will have some passive income, but it will have an active impact on my kingdom and everyone around the world. Now, I first kind of brushed it off. Of course, I wrote it down. I felt the presence of God. I wept like a baby. And it was an encounter around 3 o'clock in the morning. I could have excused it and tried to roll back to sleep. But I discerned at that moment not to be wasted. God doesn't just speak when the sun comes up. He speaks also when everything is dark. And He wants to speak to your heart. So I went back home, talked to my wife. We got rid of the first property. We gave the proceeds away. We got rid of the second property. I think we gave 30% of the proceeds away. And then the year after that actually is where God started to speak to me about writing a book. Now, I never made the connection with like revenue or royalties because most of you know I give all my books for free. But God been faithful. And that marked my life. Today I don't do necessarily like rental properties, but I do write books, and it's a calling of communication that God really brought in my life.
That's insane. So Joe Rogan, definitely, if he has a dream like that, he should call out to God, pray, and ask God, what is He trying to do? That's fascinating.
Right back to bed. I was not going to sleep, man. I laid in bed for a full hour, just trying to go to sleep. And then I said, all right, I'm up. Let's just go to the gym. And I'm in the gym and I'm trying to decide because I knew I had Brett Weinstein on the podcast. And I was like, I have to just say this immediately, like, because we're going to get into so many different subjects. There's no way I'm going to work this in. Like, I just have to get to this right away because I just had to sort of document it while it was only a few hours old, while it was fresh.
And some dreams are like you wake up from them and you're like still in the dream a little bit. You have to like kind of get it. There's something cathartic about retelling it or something.
Yeah, it was weird, man. I don't know what it was.
You said you thought they were beings from the future, maybe?
That's what, if I had to guess, like what they are, they seemed like what we will be. Like we are, as time goes on, if you look at ancient hominids versus modern humans, our heads are larger, our bodies are smaller. They're more slender. There's no need for muscle. There's no need to physically move things. These things seem very slim. They seem very slim, and God, I want to say they weren't naked, right? But they had like some sort of a suit on, but they were very genderless. Like there was no defining that's a boy, that one's a girl. There was none of that.
Which feels like where humanity is kind of headed.
Yeah. Which look, I like being a man. And I like women. I think they're fun. I like the contrast. It's fun having a variety of different kinds of people. But it causes problems, right? Because we have these procreation, reproduction instincts. We have primate instincts to be tribal, to acquire resources, to dominate, and to be untrustful of others. There's a lot of stuff it makes being a human kind of cool, because out of that you get art and you get incredible history and like amazing architecture and all these things. But it also it's a fork in the road. Like that is the kind of the bottleneck as a human being, is our natural biological reproduction.
Which is interesting, because one day the Bible says that we will be like angels in a way, at least in our reproductive system. We will probably not be producing any more human beings. God says he will make a new heaven and a new earth. I don't know. This is all so fascinating stuff. I will have the entire video in the description below. You can watch it. It's like 3 hours long. Very fascinating stuff. But yeah, keep on praying for Joe Rogan and Jesse Michaels. Like I pray that they will know like the Bible has it right all along, instead of trying to like find things within the Bible and say, see, this is my whole entire viewpoint, and therefore I don't have to listen to what the authority of the Bible has from God, but I'll just like interpret my own opinion into everything and just use it to get my opinions out. But really, there could be something else going on, which is the Bible is true, and it's been true forever, and God is the creator of the universe. Well, anyway, guys, I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. This one is super fascinating. Thank you guys so much for watching. I encourage you to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. And always remember, guys, Jesus loves you.